I think it's a disastrous budget. I think it'll do the country untold harm. To start off with, we didn't know it was coming, this massive 40 billion quid, because Starmer and Rachel Reeves lied to the electorate. They didn't tell them. In the manifesto, there is no mention whatsoever of half of these increases that they've introduced right out of the blue. If the electorate had known £40 billion worth of new taxes was required, I bet you the election would have been much, much closer. Can I just say, Carolyn, please?
Keir Starmer, who once declared he would dedicate his entire career to defending the rights of workers, now stands on the brink of losing everything. Instead of fulfilling the commitments he made, his image is gradually transforming into a significant disappointment. Criticism of Starmer's leadership is escalating as the British media uncovers his murky dealings. Now we will discuss this development. But first, please hit the like button and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss any important political news.
In my view, it's a typical Labour budget. Borrow, tax, spend. 27 million people work in the private sector. They have gone in there and taken an enormous amount of money out of the private sector, which is the sector which produces all the growth and all the profit in our community, and they've transferred it to 5.5 million people in the public sector who are not anything like as productive.
Some time ago, he promised to keep energy prices stable and halt any price increases. Starmer confidently promoted the plan to freeze energy bills as if it were a miraculous solution. Not stopping there, he made frequent appearances in parliamentary sessions, on television, and across social media platforms, declaring that the Labour Party would implement a plan to freeze energy prices. His confidence seemed boundless. Starmer once vowed that under a Labour government, people would not have to worry about rising energy bills. He even promised to provide savings for every household by taxing the enormous profits of energy companies. At that time, this promise felt like a beacon of hope amid difficult circumstances. He introduced this plan as a solution to the crisis amid rising living costs. It's understandable that everyone wanted to hear this. He promised to help each family save hundreds of pounds on their electricity bills. It's hard to imagine anyone not supporting that. But reality has always been harsher and more brutal than the sweet promises made during election campaigns. As time passed, people now face electricity bills that are over 10% higher than before. It's truly astonishing. Despite Starmer's confident promises, the average annual energy bill in the UK has soared to £1,717. Can you believe it? People are genuinely feeling the negative impact of this. These are not just soulless numbers on a screen. Millions of households are suffering severely. The situation becomes even more challenging as they are in a period of necessary spending. Amid the ongoing cost of living crisis, this broken promise feels like salt rubbed into a wound. Starmer's commitment was not just to help people save a few pounds. It was also a glimmer of hope for those struggling to make ends meet. However, it is unfortunate that those who once believed in and voted for the Labour Party are now questioning everything. How can someone stand on national television and promise relief, only to let things go in the opposite direction? Public outrage is increasing daily, and trust in Starmer's leadership is gradually waning. Many feel deceived, especially as the Labour Party continues to post messages about preventing energy price hikes. Anger and disappointment are rising, and this is just the beginning of the upcoming turmoil. Electricity bills are just one part of the larger picture. Starmer's betrayal runs much deeper. His lofty promises do not simply end there. Perhaps many remember when Keir Starmer expressed outrage at the Conservative government's consideration of cutting winter fuel payments for pensioners. He criticised the Conservatives vehemently in Parliament, emphasising that any attempt to reduce vital financial support for citizens was an unacceptable deprivation of rights. Starmer described that action as an attack on the most vulnerable members of society, particularly the elderly, who often rely on these payments to stay warm during the cold winter months. His strong statements echoed everywhere, from interviews to heated debates in Parliament. He convinced many people, And it was clear that a lot of trust was placed in him when he asserted that the Labour Party would never allow such a terrible thing to happen. However, the reality is entirely different. Today, elderly individuals face an extremely difficult and paradoxical situation. They are forced to choose between spending to heat their homes or using that money for daily meals. This is indeed a harsh predicament that many seniors are enduring in the current tough economic climate. Those whom Keir Starmer once promised to protect are now suffering the most severe consequences. It is ironic that Keir Starmer, who criticised the Conservatives for their intention to cut support, is now implementing the very actions he once promised he would never undertake. Truly, the deceit and inconsistency in his actions have become an inseparable part of this tragic political narrative. For loyal Labour voters, it is shameful to witness a government led by their party allowing the poorest to fall into destitution. A generation of older Labour voters now feels profoundly betrayed. They once placed their trust in Starmer, hoping for what he claimed, but now they witness soaring heating bills while winter fuel allowances are being cut. This not only causes them discomfort, but also pushes many into a state of despair. Those who have dedicated their lives to society are now left out in the cold, quite literally. The Labour Party's energy minister is also part of this crisis. Let's recall how Ed Miliband appeared throughout the campaign, promising to provide affordable energy for everyone. He painted a promising dream of the Labour Party's GB energy plan, which was supposed to help reduce energy prices and ensure energy independence for the United Kingdom. Sounds great, doesn't it? He made the public believe that the Labour Party had a perfect solution to the energy crisis, promising that bills would become cheaper, that jobs would be created, and that there would be a greener future, all wrapped up in a single plan. But reality shows that these things seem too good to be true. Ironically, Ed Miliband just took a long 6,000-mile flight to Brazil to discuss climate change. While energy prices at home are skyrocketing out of control, it's laughable that he's there in that distant place talking about global warming, while the Labour Party can't even keep its promise to stabilise energy prices in the UK. The public's disappointment is entirely justified, and they cannot be blamed. The energy plans that Miliband once proposed are now collapsing. The public is gradually awakening to the realisation that the Labour Party's energy plan may have never been realistic. Although they were presented very attractively, the leaders of the Labour Party do not actually seem to have mature thoughts. The people are beginning to realise that Labour's promises are just empty words with no basis in reality. Whether due to incompetence or murky motives, Ed Miliband and the Labour Party are facing a significant backlash. The trust they built during the campaign is quickly eroding, and the public is fed up with hearing promises while witnessing an entirely different reality. The entire Labour Party is showing signs of weakness. Before taking power, they claim to have all the answers. They promise to freeze energy bills, protect the elderly, and improve living standards for working-class families. They even vowed to reverse the policies limiting child benefits for families with 2 children, a highly controversial issue. Starmer has built his image around protecting the most vulnerable in society, and voters, especially those struggling in life, place their trust in him. But now, everything has taken a surprising turn. Notably, they recently opposed reversing the policy on child benefits. This is a policy that many working-class families had hoped would be abolished. This benefit has restricted child benefit payments for families with more than 2 children, severely impacting the lives of many low-income families. Thus, when the Labour Party decided to maintain this policy, it felt like a slap in the face to those who believed they would finally receive the support they needed. It's understandable that making tough decisions is necessary for a governing party, but this has become a complete betrayal of the promises made during the campaign. Voters who chose the Labour Party, especially the elderly and low-income households, are beginning to feel seriously abandoned. They had hoped for real change, but instead, they find that the Labour Party's policies are not much different from the extremely conservative policies they wanted to avoid. Starmer's leadership is facing heavy criticism, and voters are increasingly feeling disappointed. Many political commentators have pointed out the Labour Party's instability, while those who once voted for the party are beginning to question their loyalty. People are starting to wonder, if the Labour Party does not stand up to protect the working class right now, when will they? This raises not only concerns for voters, but also serious questions about Starmer's close-knit group and how he manages his party. What is unacceptable is the luxurious pension schemes that civil servants are enjoying, costing the country billions of pounds. What do people think about the issues we have discussed in today's video? Please leave your thoughts in the comments below. Don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel to stay updated on the latest political developments in the UK. Thank you all, and see you in the next videos.